Welcome to By Fans for Fans. For our sixth video, we will be discussing the television series Otherworld. In December of 1984, production of the show Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer was interrupted in December when actor Stacy Keach was sentenced to 9 months in a London prison for drug smuggling. Arriving from France, Keach was arrested with his secretary Deborah Steele on April 4th at London's Heathrow Airport for smuggling 36 grams of cocaine. Originally scheduled for 22 episodes, Mickey Spillane's Mike Hammer was abruptly cut short to the 14 that were already filmed, with impersonator Rich Little called in to mimic Keach's narrative voiceovers that Keach did not finish. Keach was released after 6 months with time off for good behavior and began reviving the Mike Hammer franchise. During this time, CBS decided to air a new show they had been working on called Otherworld as a mid-season replacement. Created by writer, producer, and musician Roderick Taylor, who had co-written the 1983 film The Star Chamber, Otherworld was a sci-fi fantasy drama about the Sterling family traveling in Egypt, where they were mysteriously transported into another world. The idea for the Otherworld TV show came about when the president of Universal said to series creator Rod Taylor, if only there was a way to do Lost in Space on Earth. Rod replied that he knew a way it could be done, as he had thought up a concept after reading a book about parallel universes. With the theme music by Sylvester LeVay, the opening sequence is narrated by Roderick Taylor himself. Here is the By Fans for Fans version of the intro.
Other worlds lie outside our seeing, beyond the beyond, at the edge of within. The Great Pyramid, erected by the ancient ones as a barricade, a portal between two dimensions, two separate realities. This is the story of one family, drawn through a mysterious vortex into the other world, and of their perilous trek homeward.
Roderick Taylor graduated with a master's from Stanford University in the early 70s. Taylor won the Stegner Fellowship, the Woodrow Wilson Fellowship, and the Academy of American Poets Prize for his first collection, Florida East Coast Champion, 1972. While still at Stanford, Taylor moonlighted as a singer in a rock band and started writing songs. He signed with Geffen Records and began a musical career that produced 7 albums, principally under the name Roderick Falconer. Sometime later, Taylor began writing story ideas and screenplays for television and film, often with his son Bruce. In 1984, they developed the science fiction series Otherworld, for which Taylor served as narrator and executive producer. When not writing for television and film, Mr. Taylor teaches creative writing at Stanford University. In January of 1985, 6 days after Ronald Reagan's second inauguration, CBS moved Airwolf to 9 p.m. and put Otherworld starting the Saturday night lineup at 8 p.m. The first episode of Otherworld was originally planned to be 2 hours long, but it was ultimately divided into 2 episodes. Episode number 1, Rules of Attraction, and episode number 5, Village of the Motor Pigs. On the surface, Otherworld was similar to shows like Land of the Giants, Land of the Lost, Lost in Space, Fantastic Journey, Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, Sliders, and Stargate SG-1. However, underneath the superficial family veneer of the series, Otherworld was often very different with its commentary on American life in the 1980s. Otherworld drew a lot of its inspiration from Star Trek. Instead of going from planet to planet, the family would go from province to province. This was a way of having continuing characters and yet still have the anthological advantage of going into a completely different environment and dealing with a completely different moral issue every week. The concept of humans crossing over between our world and another world is also one common to ancient mythology. For instance, in Irish myth, it was believed that such dimensional crossovers were indeed likely, but only on special calendar days, like planetary alignments. Serendipitously, the series starts on the day of a great planetary alignment, which had not occurred for thousands of years. After completing his project, the father of the family, Hal Sterling, played by Sam Groom, takes the family to visit the Great Pyramids. The wife, June, is played by Gretchen Corbett. Jonah Lee plays the daughter, Gina. Tony O'Dell plays the older son, Trace, and Chris Hebert plays the youngest son, Smith. However, in episode 1 and 5, Smith is played by Brandon Klain. Very quickly into the episode, during their tour, the family is zapped through a whirling vortex and whisked into an entirely new alien world. The family learns in the first city they arrive, they need to follow a series of strange obelisks to the capital province of Imar in order to return home. During their travels in this strange world called Thel, they must also evade capture from a zone trooper called Crawl, played by Jonathan Banks. While not every episode was great, Otherworld had an attractive charm. Most of the time, the writing had a degree of intelligence and humor that allowed audiences to gloss over budgetary inadequacies. The family aspect to the show always portrayed that no matter how bad things got, the Sterlings could always depend on one another. On a side note, in case you wondered, Imar is also the name of a real historical city, one of great power in the Bronze Age in the 3rd millennium BC. Reviews of the series were mostly lukewarm, with some critics admitting that the premise had promise while doubting it would catch on due to the simple fact that it was science fiction. Following the already low-rated premiere, Otherworld soon sank to the bottom of the Nielsen charts. The February 16th episode ranked 63 out of 67 programs, while the March 2nd episode tied to 61st out of 65 programs. CBS canceled Otherworld during the second week of March, replacing it with ER, Charles in Charge, and Crazy Like a Fox. The 8th and final episode, broadcast on March 16th, ranked last in the Nielsen ratings. For the season as a whole, ignoring any programs that ran less than 6 episodes, Otherworld ranked 70th out of 75 programs with a 10.4 Nielsen rating. Censors, Universal, and CBS had a few problems with the show. One problem was with using the name Church of Artificial Intelligence, but they finally did allow that. Being aired at 8 p.m., there was quite a bit Otherworld could not do. CBS turned down 12 of the initial 13 story ideas show writers pitched because they were either too dark or not family-friendly. CBS executives were much more interested in exploiting the family action-adventure aspect of the show, while Taylor was more interested in putting a typical American family into extraordinary circumstances with an incredible twist. Constant fighting for control between show producers and one particular executive at CBS eventually gave the show a bad reputation. While the TVQ ratings were the highest of any program on CBS at that time, the relatively low Nielsen ratings and an alienating reputation are what caused CBS and Universal to cancel the show. Saturday nights at 8 p.m. were an especially difficult time slot for CBS to fill, both before and after Otherworld. CBS wouldn't see any real success with a science fiction television program until late September of 1987 with Star Trek: The Next Generation. In all, just 8-hour-long episodes were aired. There remains an enduring fan myth that 13 episodes of Otherworld were actually created, and where in the final episode the Sterlings arrived at Imar and found their way home. Unfortunately, this is not true. Only 8 episodes were made. The 2-hour pilot split into 2 one-hour episodes plus 6 additional 1-hour episodes. One other episode, entitled Sing Double, was scripted. but it was turned down by CBS. Taylor wrote the episode with his son Bruce, and it saw the Sterlings pitted against evil duplicates. It's rumored there are 2 or 3 additional scripts included Seeing Double that were never made. During the short time it was on television, Otherworld managed to accomplish a whole lot with its limited budget. The production values were minimal, and most sets were redressed suburban houses and schools, with oddball futuristic technology thrown in to provide the show an otherworldly feeling. But the settings hardly mattered. It was in the dynamics of the family unit and in the quirky storytelling that Otherworld truly found its place. The series has a goofy 1980s feel and a lot of heart. Before Star Trek: The Next Generation in 1987, Otherworld was as close as we got in the 1980s to genuine Star Trek-type storytelling. On Otherworld, these everyday Americans could fail, make mistakes, and authentically prove themselves heroic without the advantage of living in a utopia. One of the most notable episodes of the series that fans often remember was an episode entitled Rock and Roll Suicide. The most amazing thing about this episode is that it charts the entire rise of rock and roll, from rock music as voice of rebellion and anti-authoritarianism, to rock as transformative cult movement, to rock music as marketable pop product. While there are many songs throughout the episode, at the end of the episode is Rod Falconer's iconic song, Rock and Roll Will Never Die. You can find Rod Falconer's music on iTunes. Let us hope that the spirit of rock and roll and the energy and defiance of arbitrary convention will never die. Unfortunately, it was time for Otherworld to leave the wave it had created. Television would never be the same, and neither would the creators and fans of Otherworld. For castles made of sand must fall into the sea, eventually. So as a tribute to the fans, the cast, and the crew of Otherworld, we present to you the by fans for fans version of the song, I've Been a Fool, written by Roderick Falconer and Michael Japp from the episode entitled Rock and Roll Suicide. Thanks for watching.
You've reached emergency reception 8. What is your penetration code?
CAI 2XXON Pulvercentrix.
Penetration confirmed. How may I assist you?
I need to talk to to the Praetor at once.
Yes?
This is Dr. Claxon, CAI, Centrex Province. I have a situation here that I think warrants your attention.
My attention? What?
There's a movement afoot here called rock and roll. It's a sound, a music that causes the listener to gyrate and question our authority.
Surely you did not contact me for that.
If you could only see what I'm talking about. There is going to be a performance. Perhaps you could send a team of observers.
I do not have the manpower to waste on petty social upheaval. It is your job to control things of that nature. That is why the leader established the CAI.
But our whole social structure is threatened. It could spread. Isn't there anyone you could send?
Yes. Yes, I think I have a man. He will be dispatched shortly.
Lonely night, I just can't sleep. Turn out the light, still I feel the heat. My mind's running wild, thinking what you might
time to get out of the way of the wave we had created. Centrex would never be the same. Neither would we. For castles made of sand must fall into the sea eventually.